Hey everyone, Dan McKenzie here with McKenzie Law Firm. We are a estate planning, estate administration, and small business counsel law firm in the Denver, Colorado area. And want to make a series of videos about something that might seem a little counterintuitive for a estate planning attorney to be talking about, which is why your estate plan won't work. If it doesn't work, what are the reasons that we see where really things go off the rails? And there are several things that are kind of common themes for when things really don't work. And not working can mean a number of different things, actually. It doesn't necessarily mean your family's in court, fighting against each other in some sort of litigation process. It could just mean it takes a long time, a lot longer than they thought. It could mean that they're just kind of at each other's throats, not going through a court process, but still not real happy with each other. We have a number of clients who come in and say, well, we went through our parents' process and we're not talking with our brother anymore because of the way he behaved in that. So I don't think even if it ultimately ended with people getting what everyone kind of thought they should get, if the family is not really talking to each other anymore, that's not a success story. So where do we see that coming up? And I think most people would kind of assume, well, that's going to be in situations where somebody got cut out or somebody got a lot less than someone else. And yes, those will frequently lead to tension between family members about things. But that's really not the only situation. We've had a number of situations where we've had like a simple will, a modest estate. The will just directs that, look, leave everything outright to these three kids in equal shares. You would think maybe what could they fight about there? There's nothing really to disagree about there. Well, there still is. And maybe the number one issue that I tell my clients to be thoughtful about is who are you going to put in charge of this thing? And so if you're writing a will, that's your personal representative, also referred to as the executor. That's how many of my clients kind of know that person. And then if you have a trust, it's the trustee. In either of those situations, that person has a lot of responsibility. They have a lot of obligations to the beneficiaries. That really is their job. Their job is to take this money, which really is not theirs, and shepherd it through this process and make sure that everything is done correctly, in a timely fashion, in a way that maximizes the benefits to the estates or the trust beneficiaries. And so that's a big task. And a lot of people kind of just default to picking a family member. So if they have adult kids, they're going to pick one of those kids. If they have, if they don't have adult kids, they're going to go with siblings a lot of times, sometimes even parents if their parents are young enough to potentially do this job for them. So it's frequently a family member, and then if they don't have an obvious family member, they'll pick a friend. And that, like I say, that is the vast majority of what we see people doing. And very common. But it really is a job. It really is a job to administer an estate. You gotta keep track of bills. You gotta make sure you're running the right creditor notices. You gotta make sure you know what your assets are. If the assets are anything beyond just like a bank account and some personal property, there might be some fairly sophisticated things we have to consider. Are there stocks to distribute? Is there real estate to sell? Is there unusual pieces of collectors items? Like all those kinds of things can come into play, and your personal representative might have to become kind of an expert on those things. And so is this person capable of that? Are they capable of really understanding difficult tax decisions and things like that? And so even in an estate plan, like I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of people who are working with wills, and these wills tell them make an outright distribution in equal shares to these people. You would think, again, who could fight over that? Well, before we get there, your personal representative or your trustee has to go through all that process that I just mentioned, as far as getting all the stuff done, getting things, maybe getting a house cleaned out and sold, maybe getting personal property distributed. And so on that kind of item, like if we're talking about personal property where it's like, okay, mom had a collection of these paintings or these figurines or whatever, they have no market value whatsoever, but multiple family members want them. Well, what do you do in that situation? I mean, how do you distribute that fairly if you don't really have a dollar number to put to something? What if one family member thinks something's worth, a lot more than another family member? That comes up a lot. Sometimes a family member will be using like one of the estate's assets, and the most common scenario we run into is one of the kids was living with the parent who passed away, so in their house, and so all kinds of allegations can be flying back and forth about like how quickly do you need to get out of that house? Should you have to get out of that house? Like what's fair there? And so again, equal distribution ultimately, but arguing about like should again like what's a reasonable amount of time to make all this happen. And so picking the right person to figure this out and understand what it means when we say, hold this for this person's maintenance or support, or distribute these items equally. Like, okay, you've got instructions, but there's a lot of different ways to carry out those instructions, and some people are going to be better at it than others. Some people are going to have more credibility with the beneficiaries than the others, and so getting the right person with the right skill set who's kind of respected by everyone is important. If you don't have someone in your family who really is an obvious choice for that, there are professionals out there that do this. Like, this is what they do, and so you can appoint one of those people. We always counsel our clients to consider it at least. And again, most people kind of stick with the family or friend, but it really is something that can be worth paying for to someone who's done it a lot and kind of knows the rules already and isn't involved in making the distributions. That's another issue. Is like, look, if it's one of your kids who's going to be doing this stuff, they're kind of on both sides of the transaction. They're the ones making the decisions about who's getting what, and they're also one of the people receiving. So it's just an obvious conflict, and some people are a little bit better situated to handle that, and again have credibility with their siblings than others. So picking the right person is your most important task, more important frankly than the instructions you give them. I always tell my clients, look, a good person can do a lot with a little instruction, a bad person can screw up good instructions. So let's start there. So if you're in the Colorado area, Denver area, and are interested in having this conversation with us, we'd be thrilled to have it with you. We have some memos, we have some guidance we give to our clients on how to kind of think through this. So we would be happy to help. Our phone number is 303-578-2745. Again, we're at the McKenzie Law Firm. I'm Dan McKenzie, and I appreciate you watching this video. I hope it was helpful. And stay tuned. There will be some more videos out there with some thoughts on what will cause a estate plan to not work and things you'll want to consider. All right, thank you.